like backstory on me just for yourself. I've been in the fandom since the 90s. I've been here watching conventions, talking to these actors. I was chatting with Johnny back in 2004. Um, this is one of those things that really irritates me because there are so many things that many actors know the answers to questions. They just don't want to say them. And it pisses me off because, like you said, the truth is never a bad thing. I'm sorry, it's just stop hiding, you know? Well, the problem is he's relying on people's lack of information, and, you know, some people lowball it. He's definitely a highball it, and that's what I was saying, man. A lot of the guys who were his camera crew, were stunt guys, the people who made those early videos, they're gone. You know, the ones that stick around are Camp Aaron, but they've gone through so many people. They couldn't even hang on to their original host, Marisha Ray, because she just mysteriously didn't want to work with them anymore. And it's like, oh, I wonder what happened there. Do you know my favorite thing about the Order is that if you go onto their Indiegogo page, there is a section in their text that says, even if we don't raise any money, we will still shoot this movie. This will definitely happen. I think once Legend of the White Dragon comes out, Bat in the Sun will disappear.
You were told by a Power Ranger content creator to reach out to me regarding Legend of the White Dragon. You supposed to have some info for me, something good that you witnessed personally, correct?
Yes.
All right, so I'm looking at what you sent me. You mentioned being on a Zoom call with Johnny Yong Bosh.
Yeah. So when he was promoting Arc Exodus, he put a thing out basically saying if you wanted to come and have a Q&A with him, I believe Jason Narvi was there as well. They were going to tell us behind the scenes stuff and all of that stuff. And it was unfiltered, I think is the nice way of putting it, because there was hardly anybody there. It wasn't being recorded. There's no footage to my knowledge of it anywhere. They were not shy about being real with why Arc Exodus existed. And it existed because of Legend of the White Dragon fucking him over, in essence.
Whoa. Before we get to that, like, what is Arc Exodus? Is that like a Johnny Yong Bosh film?
Arc Exodus is a short film. It's about 45 minutes long. It was directed, starring Johnny Yong Bosh, Jason Narvi, written by Kyle Higgins, and it directly links back to a project that I believe you are already familiar with, which was Click Boom.
Ah, yes, Click Boom. Man, this Arc Exodus I gotta watch. Before we get into this Zoom call, what made you want to come forward?
Honestly, I am usually not one for drama, and I get really sick and tired of the PR fandom in general accepting people's word as is, accepting mediocrity, to the point that I basically don't interact with the fandom in any way, shape, or form anymore, but I still see things. And your videos in particular got my attention because you've done similar digging to what I've done in the past, and you've found the same things, but you've actually told people, and people can't refute it. So if there's somebody who's actually willing to just put stuff out there and say, you know, this is the other side of things, I'm always about that. I get really, really frustrated when, for whatever reason, people don't want to say the full story. They just want to not cause trouble. And I understand that. Like, I get why people want to do that, but sometimes you need the facts. You need to set the record straight.
I agree. The facts can be hard. They can be uncomfortable. But what I find in this line of work, or this content creation thing that I've gotten into, kind of like a little bit investigative, is most people want to bury their heads in the sand. Some people, like you said, don't want to cause drama or be involved in drama. And by doing that, you have people like Aaron who are able to thrive because only the people in the industry behind the scenes talks about them, or as opposed to openly saying, hey, this is why I left, Legend of the White Dragon, is because of Aaron.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly.
I am happy that you have decided to come forward, even if it's just to share this little nugget regarding Legend of the White Dragon. Let's get to the meat and potatoes, the infamous Zoom call of Johnny Young Bosh.
Yeah, and I do want to stress as well, because I was checking before I came on, some of what I'm about to say I can actually link you to a YouTube video where he's saying some of this himself, just not in as much detail, because I was pretty sure it was still up, and it still is. So if you would like me to send you that later, I can.
Are you still involved in the Legend of the White Dragon project? Because you've been very quiet on social media during the quarantine.
Unfortunately, I am not. I was part owner in it, but then they changed the contracts, and it got a little weird and messy. And so I was like, they no longer have me part of it. So
yeah. Thanks for telling us that, Johnny. Now tell us about your own project that you're working on.
Yeah, well, actually, I was supposed to be doing a film with Jason Frank, but he, like a week before shooting, he left. He quit, and he took money out of it, and then just kind of bailed, and that's where things kind of went sour. And so I had to just shoot something else, and so I came up with a completely different storyline, with a little sci-fi project on the spot. And rewrote it with some friends in like a couple days, and then just shot a whole different film. But I'll be releasing it like October, like on Halloween, I believe. I'm going to upload it online so people can watch it. No crowdfunding. It's just a free thing, just to say thanks to the fans, and hopefully people will enjoy it.
The Zoom call in question is separate from something else to do with the White Dragon, but I'll do the Zoom call first because they sort of link. So on the Zoom call, the question was asked, where did Arc Exodus come from? And the reason why it links back to Click Boom is because you have played audio clips quite recently with Jason Frank saying he's going to do a movie with Johnny Bosh called Click Boom. They were trying to get that movie made for years. In fact, I think all the way back in 2009, they actually announced they were going to do a movie called Blue Sun, and they have been trying to do something along these lines for a very long time. Johnny paid $30,000 of his own money to secure a studio, a crew. They had actors, they had locations, and they had a script. And Jason was supposed to match that, and then they were both going to put in more money. I believe the final total was going to be just shy of $160,000 between them. And a week before that film was supposed to start shooting, Jason left and took his money with him.
You know, I did see a video. I've covered Jason David Frank so much. I've covered Power Rangers so much. But I do recall a video where Johnny Young Bosh was talking about, or maybe it was a live stream, that they both agreed to work on the movie, and Jason did pull his money out.
Yeah. So what happened is Jason left, Johnny was now screwed, and actors left, the director left, but he had already paid 30 grand in essence. So it was like, do I just lose the money or do I do something with it? And so over Christmas, because they were supposed to shoot in January, he called Jason Narvey and he called Kyle Higgins, and he got on a plane to go to a film studio with nothing to shoot. By the time he landed, Kyle Higgins had written the script for Arc Exodus for him. Wow. And Jason Narvey came down to help him produce it, and they literally did it all themselves on the fly and just kept as many of the people that they could. I mean, they had an actor who was getting on the plane from the other side of the country who didn't even know that any of this had happened. Like, he landed and was basically told, yeah, we're not filming that anymore, we're filming this. That's how last minute this all was.
Interesting. So that was how Arc Exodus came about. They were supposed to do a movie together. Jason pulled out his money, and Kyle Higgins and Johnny Young Bosh do this Arc Exodus sci-fi thriller, what looks to be. And then what? Now I think it's time we can get to the Zoom call.
Well, that is what he said in the Zoom call. If you go and find any of the videos, he won't give specifics. And if you ask him about it now, or if you see any panels about it now, he omits that part. He doesn't, understandably, want to name drop the fact that him and Jason fell out, because they did. And he even says that in that video. He says our relationship soured. At the time they stopped following each other on social media, I remember noticing that and thinking it was weird before he said all of this happened. Arc Exodus went on and won many, many awards at various film festivals, including the Warner Brothers Award, which gives them a distribution deal if they make a feature film, which they have. And the reason why Jason pulled out is because he wanted to do Legend of the White Dragon instead. And this didn't make any sense until your audio clips came out saying about what happened with Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe, where Aaron does weird things with shooting schedules, because the problem is that they were basically booked at the same times. And they weren't to begin with, is the implication that Johnny gave. And so, what happened on with White Dragon and Johnny, to my understanding, is that Jason and Aaron wanted to do something, and Jason wasn't entirely thrilled with what they had, but it was good enough that he wanted to do it. And then he was like, Johnny, do you want to join? And Johnny said, yeah. I'll obviously want to look at the script. He looked at the script that Aaron had done, and he said, and I quote, it was horrible. I rewrote the entire thing pretty much over the week after they gave it to me. And that version of the script, everyone, including Aaron, said it was better. And that's the version that they shot a proof of concept trailer for that went out on Bat in the Sun's channel, and it was the trailer for the first Kickstarter, which was a very different story to the current White Dragon. And Johnny was co-creator, co-producer, co-writer. And during the first Kickstarter, Johnny said that he was frustrated because neither Jason nor Aaron was doing enough to promote the fact that it was out there. And he could see that they weren't going to hit their goal, and they didn't. But if you go onto that first Kickstarter's, I think it's the update page, they posted, I don't know if you remember them, like little comic book style vignettes with voiceovers. Do you remember that? Yes. Yes, I do. Okay. So none of that was Bat in the Sun. That was all Johnny. He paid to have those made. He got the actors to voice them, and he wrote them, and most of what's hinted at in terms of backstory didn't exist until he created them. He was the one who suggested having Nakia Burress play his going to be dead partner as a reference to Power Rangers. He suggested Catherine Sutherland be Jason Frank's ex-wife. He had plans for how to make all of this work and fit together and give fans what they want. And he pretty much did all of this on his own with no real help from Bat in the Sun or Aaron. And when it flopped, he was like, well, we can look at this again after we film Click Boom, because we have the money, we have the shooting schedule, like that is going to happen. There's no reason why we can't film that first. Now, I can't remember exactly who it was, but originally, when they did the first Kickstarter, there were other actors attached to the project. There was Yong Bosh, Jason Fawn, and Jason Frank, but there was also, if I remember correctly, Ciara Hanna, Yoshi Sudarso, and Christiane, I think, was blue and pink. But there was supposed to be more Ranger actors. And my understanding is that when they did the second Kickstarter, they were all gone. And Bat and the Sun just didn't tell anyone that. So a lot of people back this project still believing that Johnny was on, Yoshi was on, Christy was on, and they were already like, nah, we ain't doing it. And Johnny's version of events, to my understanding, is that would have been fine. Like, he still would have done it, had they not then messed up this other project that he'd already put money into and wanted to do, because no one asked him. And he said they changed contracts, they changed ideas, they didn't want to do a lot of the stuff that I had suggested. And my internalization of that is that Johnny actually knows about filmmaking, and I love JDF, but he wasn't as big a filmmaker. Johnny is. And so when Aaron would say, let's do X, Y, and Z, Johnny had the experience to say, why? Why would we do that? That doesn't make any sense. And it sounds like that caused a lot of problems and friction, and eventually he was just like, yeah, I'm not really sure I want to do this now. And then when they just did it anyway, he was like, no, you've cost me a load of money, you've messed up yet another plan, and I didn't want to be involved with yet another crowd-funded Power Rangers project that doesn't go anywhere. Because he's been involved with quite a few.
Yeah, Johnny Young Bosh was tragically a part of, that the infamous Order Indiegogo that
Yes.
that left the fans pretty high and dry after donating well over $100,000.
Well, it's funny too, because Johnny was originally a co-producer on that movie, and the original director of The Order was his business partner, David Wald, who they themselves had made a movie a few years earlier called Love Like Bullets. Like, his production company at the time, Card House Films, was one of the big driving forces for why that happened. And then, lo and behold, the minute they weren't involved anymore, it fell apart.
The crazy thing is, this is not different from what I've heard behind the scenes, that the moment they removed Johnny Young Bosh from the Order, because I guess they didn't like the direction he wanted to take it, or his vision, or, creative differences, because, Karen Ashley wanted to put her stank on it, it did fall apart. And then they came out with the whole SAG shut us down, when it was originally that they had to pay back the money that they were collecting from some backers who they said, we'll get you into SAG and you'll be a part of the movie. But this is a story that I've been told previously, but it's hard to get someone who's also been told to come on the record and say it.
Well, as someone that was a high backer of The Order, I assure you I have no problem talking about that movie.
Wait, you were a high backer?
I wasn't, before you get excited, I wasn't one of the SAG ones, because I being in the UK, there was no way in hell I was paying for a flight and hotel.
What was that process like backing the Order?
As in, what was their communication like after they had our money?
Sure.
Non-existent, I think, is the nicest way of putting it. To begin with, we got regular emails from Karen through her Cash Pictures email address, I think, from memory. I've probably still got them. And that was fine. They told us about the SAG union issue, but at that point they were also telling us that they were still going to film. It was just now going to be a bit of a disaster. But separately to that, I had been told by somebody on the inside that they had already lost Daniel Southworth. And he was the one doing all the action and the stunts. So without him, it was already looking a lot harder to make. And I'm reliably informed that the reason why he left is because he couldn't cope with the egos and the fact that he's the guy that has worked in the film industry for decades as an action director, and a lot of the people there just thought they knew better than him. And he was like, no. So they were already losing people before the SAG thing happened.
That is interesting because that is something that I don't think a lot of people were aware or even privy to about Dan Southworth's involvement with the order.
Yeah. I mean, Dan is actually, well, was, because he doesn't want to do it anymore, but he has had a really good career in the action industry. He's done a lot of stunt work and a lot of action design, and the problem with that particular industry, which is where I live, you don't really get credited that well. There are so many people that the only way you know is through word of mouth, is the easiest way of putting it. They just don't credit stuff, and most stunt guys don't really care, so they're not fussed that they don't get credited.
Yeah, you know, with the way the order ended, I'm sure he's happy he got off that sinking boat when he did. But going back to Legend of the White Dragon and Johnny Young Bosh, did he ever mention anything about Aaron or anything like that during the Zoom call? Because the version we heard, the version that's out there, the public version, is he didn't feel comfortable campaigning during the pandemic. But now with the addition of the audio and Jason saying how much money Aaron wanted, allegedly, I suppose, if I'm Johnny Young Bosh and we're crowdfunded during the pandemic, the last thing I want to do is give half that money or a significant amount of that money to someone who I have more experience than.
He never addressed the money subject openly, but he did imply that Aaron was part of the well, he said Bat in the Sun was some of the issues he had in terms of how it was being run, and that was all he said. He didn't say anything specific on that front. He was very much trying to steer the conversation towards his project, but at that point he was still, I think, pretty frustrated, because bear in mind this was all before JDF passed, that he was doing all of this, so I think he was still very much in the mindset of, I'm angry at him right now, but we'll work this out in the future. And obviously we know what happened.
And in all honesty, yeah, I guess they were at odds, but I think they were in the process of patching it up, because I saw a live stream with Johnny Young Bosh, and it was probably one of his best live streams that he's ever done on his Instagram channel. It lasted for about an hour, and he actually touched on that, and he did talk about the order and basically the project that he had with Jason, and Jason pulling his money out, putting Johnny in a awkward position because they were going to, go half on the film.
Is that the one where he was at his van?
No, this one he was at his house. Now, the thing I really don't like about Johnny Young Bosh is he deletes his live, because I'm like, oh my God, we just sat through one of the best live streams ever. Let me go download it. And lo and behold, he never sent it out to the public.
Correct. Because when he was filming Arc Exodus, he did 3 live streams inside his car, van, whatever he was in. And same thing. Like, they were an hour each, and he was just answering any questions, and they were so good, and there's so much information there, and they were gone the second he went offline. It's so frustrating.
Yes, because then I look like a storyteller, but thank goodness one of my other friends was in the live stream too. We were like, oh my God, this is so good. We're like geeking out that he's literally not filtering himself whatsoever, talking about, the goods, the bads, how he was trying to be there for Jason, how he had been there for Jason in the past. And then I'm like, man, I can't wait to download this and disseminate it to the world. And boom, as soon as the live stream ended, that was it.
Well, not to take us back off topic again, but I assume you know that JDF was supposed to be in the order.
Yes, I learned that recently, that JDF was supposed to be in the order and Johnny Young Bosh stood in for him.
Yeah.
But I think JDF knew what the order was going to turn out to be. And that's why I never was in it. Keep going.
Well, don't get me wrong, that could be entirely true, but unfortunately, I think there was a simpler reason. And again, I don't want to be a storyteller, but it's kind of why I'm here. I'll tell the story. If I remember correctly, and this is pure memory, Karen Ashley invited everyone that she wanted to be in the order. Obviously, her and David Fielding wrote it, so they blind invited people. So I don't think the others, no, they didn't. The actors didn't know that the other actors were going to be there. So there were lots of people invited to their house to be told about the order. And one of them was Jason David Frank, and one of them was Austin St. John. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Yeah, and I don't think it got much further than that.
Yeah, you have to think about the time. This was the time Austin St. John had just come back into on the scene, and he was hot like fish grease, and him and Jason were a bit at odds. And yeah,
that's an understatement.
Sure, it's an understatement. And I know Jason wanted nothing to do with Austin St. John because he said he couldn't act. And that was one of the gripes. I don't know if that ever came out, but there you go. He said Austin St. John couldn't act, and maybe he was on to something because he hasn't had many acting roles outside of Power Rangers and like some short film.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what the reason is, but yeah, their beef is, yeah.
It still goes on to this day. As I've showed clips of Austin, even after Jason's passing, saying he called him a jerk after taking pictures with his wife and daughter, or the widow and daughter. So there's that. But anything else you want to add? I feel like you've touched on so much in such a short amount of time. This has been a phenomenal, enlightening experience. What else do you think the fandom is missing, whether it be with The Order or Legend of the White Dragon or Bat in the Sun or Johnny Young Bosh? What is it? Is there anything that you feel like the fandom really should know that we may have not touched on? It could be even off subject.
I don't believe so. The only thing I do want to add is in one of your recent videos or live streams, you were discussing why the Bat and why the White Dragon has taken so long. It's in post-production hell, and it's been in color correction for 2 years at this point, apparently. Except for when it's not actually locked picture shooting, because, apparently a film can do that 3 times. But a lot of my colleagues, who are film critics, and a lot of the guys who actually do this for a living and make films, have assured me that none of what he's saying is correct. And that, as you said, people say things behind closed doors that they would never say in open doors. And there's probably a pretty good reason why the only work Aaron seems to be able to get is the stuff he makes himself.
Oh my goodness. That is a great observation. The thing is about people not wanting to say, one, I know what he's saying is not correct, but it's one thing to suspect it. I need proof is not correct. That's where I love when I have proof, because without proof, it's just speculation. Now he is trying to do the spin of a lifetime. Currently, ever since the audio has come out, he's been posting Jason David Frank left and right, front and center. You can't really even, it doesn't even compare. You gotta be like, what is triggering Aaron to constantly post Jason David Frank and updates? And like one of his latest ones is he's trying to compare Legend of the White Dragon to Wednesday, as it's a 3-year difference between season 1 and season 2. Well, I actually looked up like the production schedule, and basically what happened is Wednesday season 2 production schedule for Wednesday started April 2024 in Ireland, and it was done in December 2024 and it's coming out in 2025. Whereas Legend of the White Dragon has been filming since like what 2020, 2021, and we're at 2025. And you have to remember, you have, what is it, Jenna Ortega, you have schedule conflicts that push out production so far because she's filming other stuff. So for them to say, hey, we got Wednesday done in what looks to be about 8 months, and it's just getting this 2025 release date, either, finishing or Netflix schedule, is way different than what's going on with Legend of the White Dragon.
Yeah. And ultimately, Bat in the Sun used to be a really fun little studio that made YouTube videos that got them really popular. They were connected. They were working with people who are now mega famous and all pretty much have left them and don't seem interested in going back. Even the actors who aren't particularly famous seem to have parted ways with them and have literally moved out of Los Angeles and don't seem to mention them now that they're not living near them. And if he's really as good of a filmmaker as he is, I look forward to being able to watch legally Operation Black Unicorn, Taz Caden, and Ninjak vs. the Valiant Universe, because almost everything he's ever done that isn't a Batman doesn't exist. It's just nowhere.
Wow. So wait, are you saying he worked on projects that have never come out, or is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah. Like obviously, Ninjak vs. the Valiant Universe was supposed to be a big thing, and then weird things happened with it that, for the life of me, I could not get JDF to tell me what happened. But it was obvious that something happened because you don't get pulled off of a panel for no reason. And yeah, and after that panel, it was just gone. Like, the marketing was gone, the release date gone. It had a release date when it was going to go and be released, and it missed it. And then the only way it was allowed to be released was on comicbook.com as a 6 or 8 part, I can't remember how many parts it was, but it was released as like a series in their embedded web player, and then they only were allowed to keep it up for like 12 weeks, and then it was gone. So the versions that you can find on YouTube is an edited version of that original series run.
Wow, because that's the only thing I can find. I found it on YouTube, and it looks to be 113 minutes, and it does say directed by Aaron. But the fact that if what you're saying is true, it never got a release date. Wow.
Yeah, it was literally just cancelled.
Holy shit.
Oh, so it had a release date. I think it was May something. Like I'm sure the original trailer, because I'm sure someone's uploaded it, ended with a release date, and then it just vanished. Like Bat in the Sun wouldn't talk about it, Aaron wouldn't talk about it, JDF said he doesn't know what's happening with it, and then not long after that, Valiant changed hands. And from what I understand, they didn't want anything to do with it or them, the new owners.
Wow. Because I think this might be the trailer 8 years ago. Let's see if I could, if it ends with an end date. It looks pretty violent. It actually looks a little bit better than what Bat in the Sun is doing. I mean, I could be wrong.
It had its moments.
It ends saying coming soon. That's just one trailer. There's so many different trailers out there.
Is that the one on Bat in the Sun's channel?
No. Oh, I got one on Bat in the Sun's channel.
Yeah, because if you look in, is it the one that says watch the series at comicbook.com with a link in the description? Yes. I'm pretty sure it doesn't go anywhere.
Watch here right now.
Yep.
I'm on the page now. It goes to it says directed by Aaron and Sean, but there is no there there is no link to watch.
There's no, yeah, because there used to be an embedded video on this page, and that's been removed.
Wow.
They're literally not there anymore.
Wow, in real time, as I'm recording this in real time, there is nowhere to watch this. I did see the tagged. No, it's just some tags on here. Oh wow, they scrapped the. That's a waste of money on the. What was that Lionsgate that produced that?
Don't think so. I think it was produced by Valiant Digital, which was literally created so that they could make web TV shows of their characters, and Bat and the Sun basically weaseled. I was going to say strong-armed, but that's not accurate. They basically were like, hey, we make stuff on the YouTube all the time. Let us make your series, and we'll do an amazing job. And that cancelled Operation Black Unicorn, is the other JDF series that they were trying to crowdfund that didn't go anywhere either.
Operation Black Unicorn? Is this a Bat in the Sun thing?
Yeah. Hang on. I'm pretty sure I can find it.
I see it. I found it. I found the trailer.
Oh, you found it.
Wow. You know, someone else told me about this, asked him about it and why it never came to be. But I'm like, you know, it's only so much things I can investigate.
It never came to be because of Ninjak vs. the Valiant Universe. This is what they were going to do. And then whatever happened to allow them to get that license happened. And they were like, no, this is union. This is going to be paid work. So we're doing this. And that was that. That was Black Unicorn dead.
Okay. Wow, man. You have been, you're probably going to open up another can of worms when it comes to Bat in the Sun and Aaron. What did you think of the audio before I let you go?
What part of the audio?
The entire audio that I released. The 34 minutes or 20, the video, the original video where you heard people calling Aaron a hack and alleging that he wanted $2 million from a $4 million budget to direct.
Well, it's interesting because all the stuff that Dinesh said, which is weird that he then said he didn't say that, actually tracks perfectly with a lot of what was reported at the time, like with Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe just disappearing because the new owners didn't want anything to do with it. And my understanding at the time was that when JDF agreed to play Bloodshot, it wasn't supposed to be just for this series. He was supposed to be Bloodshot going forward for Valiant, including any movies they make. You know, like the one that they got Vin Diesel to do.
I know, I was like, Vin Diesel was definitely Bloodshot, but
yeah, because they changed hands, that's part of the problem, and licensing with intellectual properties is fun because part of what caused the issue is that Sony was mad that Valiant was using characters that Valiant owned, but Sony had licensed some 15 years earlier and still technically held the license for film.
Yeah, that's like that is such high level. Like, oh yeah, we got the license 15 years ago from Valiant, and Valiant is like, well, we own it. Yeah, that's that Marvel Sony battle over like Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah, and again, it's Sony. It's the same company, so. But yeah, as for the audio itself, it all kind of matched up. Like a lot of what JDF said in that audio matches with what Johnny said. Even down to that clip you played with Jason at a convention saying he didn't want to do crowdfunding anymore. It's almost word for word what Johnny said. And I don't understand why he picked Aaron over Johnny in that moment. And the sad part is I think the reason is not just because of all the stuff that you said with like contracts and the fact that Aaron was intertwined with White Dragon. But I think that the real problem is that whether it was Aaron overselling it or Jason believing his own hype, they were both convinced that White Dragon was going to be on Marvel level of success. I remember those two talking about it, and they were literally saying this is the next big thing in entertainment. They had toy deals that was going to make Power Rangers look amateur hour. They had marketing deals that was going to be in the millions. They had every theater in America ready to open, and this was going to be a franchise that would be around for the next 10 years. And it's a lot of ambition. I mean, if you're going to shoot high, I guess, but for your first project, I don't know how you were ever going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard sell. It's a hard sell. And the only reason I'll say it's a hard sell because I know Jason wanted to incorporate mental health into Legend of the White Dragon, which that in itself is a hard sell. You know, the last thing I think people want to be thinking about is their mental health leaving a movie. You know, I often go to movies to be entertained. Let's just be honest. The casual moviegoer just wants to go, have a good time, leave, not go and necessarily maybe like, damn, what's going on with my mental health? But you know, that's Jason staying true to who he was, and he wanted to put it in there. But like I said, for them to think that it was going to be the next Marvel with Aaron at the helm.
Yeah, but what you got to remember is in that original Kickstarter, I remember so clearly Aaron saying this because I just couldn't believe he said it. Their whole thing was that if they can raise $300 or $300,000 or $400,000 with their level of experience and technical know-how, they make it look like it's a $3 to $4 million budget movie. And no, they don't. I'm sorry. Like, for a 3-minute YouTube video, yeah, your stuff is cool, but you try and stretch that over a feature. I mean, just watch Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe, and you can already see the shortcomings. You can see the lessons that haven't been learned because they just made YouTube videos. And yeah, they're short films, whatever, that's fine. But it's a completely different ballgame making a feature film, which has kind of been backed up by the audio that you shared of him not filming things correctly, not keeping track of stuff, not locking stuff down and having proper schedulings and people, which is a whole separate thing. But the fact that they were going to make something that genuinely was going to be the next big thing, like mainstream appeal, I don't know where that came from. I don't know if that was Aaron or what, but they definitely were drinking their own Kool-Aid.
I mean, I admire people having confidence, but you know, like if I'm thinking of something mainstream, and I get it, we are starved for originality when it comes to films right now. Everyone's doing a remake of this or this. I mean, Sinners came out with a kind of a fresh take on vampires. But if you're gonna make the next Marvel, it needs to have some of the elements as a Marvel film. And from the trailer, I just don't get that for the most part, especially when it comes to the special effects, considering like the special effects look very similar to the special effects that he used in Beatdowns. And I'm like, well, this is supposed to be a multi-million-dollar movie, and we looking at $1,000 effects.
Well, what I want to say is, because you asked me about Johnny Bosh, the film arc Exodus and his new feature film Spades, Johnny is doing the visual effects himself. Over the pandemic, he had nothing else to do, so he taught himself how to do visual effects. When you watch Arc Exodus, there are several shots of visual effects. They are on par, if not better, than anything you'll see in a Bat in the Sun project. Johnny at home on Adobe After Effects, plugging away.
Wow. Putting in the work himself. You have to admire that. And meanwhile,
Well, the thing is the thing is with Johnny is he genuinely wants to give back to the fans. Him and Jason have made several short films, and the one thing that they've both said they're not going to do is ask fans for money. He said, there's too many people that have taken advantage of the fans, and he said, I have put an obscene amount of money into this feature film, and if it fails, the only person who loses money is me. That's my problem. It's not the fans' problem. I want to give back to all the people that have supported me, and I cannot do that if it's their money that I'm spending. It has to be my own.
wow. Shout out to Johnny Young Bosh, man. This one guy I would love to get an interview, but due to the type of content I make and the questions I would ask, I know getting a Johnny Young Bosh interview is probably never going to happen, and this is probably the closest I'll ever get to it. Anything else you want to add? What do you think about Aaron? The audio coming out and Aaron recently buying a house with no product. Like, where is he getting the money from? Is what I'm saying.
Have you heard that
Well,
story?
I have heard that story. I don't know is the short answer. My suspicion is that Aaron had to have money before he started making anything with Batman the Sun. Now, his dad is a composer, and allegedly he's made a pretty solid living at that. But when Aaron started doing Batman the Sun's videos, one of the first ones they did was a Batmobile race through the city. They had replicas of every existing Batmobile at that point and raced them, and they filmed it. You are not some kid off the street who's good at making films on your phone if you can afford to get, even if you're renting them, a bunch of Batmobiles, pay the insurance, and film them racing anywhere. But
Are you saying he's a Nepo baby?
it's entirely possible, and throw in the fact that his partner is making an income, without really needing to do a whole lot, and you got a pretty sweet combination there for being able to afford a lifestyle in Hollywood.
Wow. I never thought of it like that, but now that you put it, maybe this is his own money. Maybe his dad is like, hey, Aaron comes from money. And I don't know, man. I honestly don't.
I don't know either, but my attitude is he has consistently landed on his feet. And in my experience as someone that hasn't, you typically only see that in people who have a nice golden safety net around them, even if they're unaware of it.
Interesting. Wow, you know what? Let's just end it on that note, man. This has been a phenomenal interview. I thank you so much for lending me your time. And it's going to take me some time to edit it to alter your voice, but it'll come out very soon.